Hello, fellow wargamers and history buffs. There are two questions that frequently appear in the various forums, either on Consim or on Facebook, regarding the Bataille game series. And the one that I wanted to address today is, I've got an older game and I wanted to use a more modern rule set with it. What do I do to make that happen? So let's take a look. The Bataille games that were designed and published in the 1970s and early 80s by Marshall Enterprises, as well as those published by Clash of Arms in the 1980s, were designed with a rule system in place that did not include a command control function. Similarly, the premier rules that have been used for the development of the Marshall Enterprise games in the last decade also lack a command control feature that is a key ingredient in the more recent and modern rule sets, such as the Marie Louise, Regs 30, and 5th edition. If you're going to be playing one of those older types of games or one of the more recent Marshall Enterprise publications using Regs, Marie Louise, or 5th edition, you're going to need to add in the command control and some other elements. And fortunately, a lot of the research has already been done for you, and there are some tools available for easy use for you to download. And let's take a look at those. Where you're going to want to go is the labataille.us website. And this is a site that has basically been created by fans of Bataille. I'm not sure exactly who we can credit for it, but a tip of the hat for them for having done this. There are a number of things that you're going to find here at this site. One is going to be rules. They're going to have information about the rules, so they will have different rule sets that you can download, or they'll direct you to where you can find those. So you can find the most recent versions of the Marie Louise rules, you can find the most recent edition of the Regs rules, and you're going to find a link to the 5th edition rules and the premier rules. Now, where you're going to really find a lot of value is if you are playing a game that is one of the older publications. You will then find it here from a listing, and then you can go ahead and pull up the information for it. So let's say we want to look at Auerstadt. This was published by both Marshall Enterprises and Clash of Arms back in the late 70s, early 80s. And so here we can find then the rules and charts that will bring it up to date with the Marie Louise and or Regs and or 5th edition. And so we'll pull this up here and let's look at this here. It's a nice PDF that it downloads. And here you can take a look, and it's going to tell you a little bit about what's there, some different things that you might need to add, or there might be differences depending on which edition of the game you have, since it was published 3 different times. And it's going to then have information about the terrain and things like that. But most importantly here, it's got the information about the command. And so here we see that the French have Davout as their corps leader. He's always in command. And then it talks about command span and everything else that is appropriate for that. For the foes of Napoleon, in this case the Prussians, it's telling you about their command points for Brunswick, Kalkruth, and then if there's a situation where maybe a leader is killed, it will have the information on that. So it's got all the information that would be lacking from the original rule set, where things like command control weren't as an important an element. Similarly, it's got information there about administrative marches and terminus hexes, armored cavalry, things like that that weren't necessarily a function in the original rule set, but are an important part of the more up-to-date ones. And then, of course, it's got your setup for everybody, reinforcement arrivals, etc. So this particular download's got everything that you need to play the game. It's got in this case, it looks like it's got a second scenario available. And so that's all right there in an easy to download PDF that you can use. Now, something else that you'll find here on the labataille.us site are games that you can download that are print and play. So these are games that various and sundry La Bataille fans have put together on their own and have available for people to download. And so these are ones then that you can print out and then play. Let's take a look here. Here's some different ones here. What's one that I've done? Tamamez. Here's one that I've printed out. So if you click on this, it's going to then bring up for you the order of battle for the units. It's got the map, it's got the counters, it's got the rules, so everything that you would need then, and then you can just print and play this particular game. And so there are a number of battles that probably were too small to be treated by one of the actual publishers. And instead, these are ones that folks who are La Bataille enthusiasts have put together and made available for the wider fan base to download and play. So from the labataille.us site, you can then find these PDFs that will be able to help retrofit the older games or a game without the command control rules built into it to be used then for a more modern rule set. One point of caution to you is that in many cases, the victory conditions that are listed in these PDFs are not significantly different from those in the original game. And I think that this is slightly problematic, particularly if you're going from a game where maybe you didn't have any command control and you could move your units and as many as your units in as many different directions as you wanted to. And now you have those same forces sort of hamstrung by maneuver units and command points and keeping things within a particular command radius. You might find it hard to still meet, in many cases, the victory conditions that might have been stipulated in the earlier original rule set that didn't have those same limitations. So you and whoever you're playing with might want to sit down and kind of talk through that and see what sort of modifications you might want to make to the victory conditions, given the fact that you're not going to have necessarily the same freedom of movement as you would have had in those earlier rule sets that the game was designed for. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is that depending on how many people you have that are playing a game, you may want to add maybe a few more commands here or there. We're getting ready to play a 4-player game of the alternate history Jena coming up soon at Gettysburg, the conference at Gettysburg. And so with that one, we have what's listed in the labataille.us sort of retrofit. We're going to be playing it with the regs. But because it's a team game, we want to give folks a few more commands, a few more options to do stuff. We might be adding a few more commanders and a few more command points than what's necessarily listed there. And once again, this is something that you and your group want to talk through, kind of figure out and sort out ahead of time before you launch into the game. That way there's no surprises later. All right, well, that takes care of that little overview of how to retrofit your older La Bataille titles to a newer rule set. If you found this at all useful or entertaining, go ahead and smash that like button. And if you'd like to help support the channel, there's a link down in the description section for a little website called Buy Me a Coffee, where you guys can buy me a coffee or a tea as a way of saying thank you, or you can become a monthly subscriber. If you're interested in getting an overview about the La Bataille rules, all the various rules through all the various decades, I did a video on it a few years back, and you can check that out over here. And until then, keep playing games, keep having fun, and as always, be well.